Spurge here, and in this video we're going to break down the new Sedici Duale Adventure Helmet. Now, the new Duale is going to sit above the Viaggio in Sedici's line of adventure lids. This is coming in around the $240 price point for the fiberglass version that you see here. There is going to be a carbon version as well, which will be right around the $350 price point at the time of filming this video. So, when we're talking about the fiberglass shell on this helmet, it is a composite 5-layer fiberglass shell, 2 different shell sizes. The first shell size ranges from extra small up to medium, and then the second shell size goes from large to 3XL. You're going to look at 2 intake vents. You have an intake vent down on the chin, and then you're also going to have an intake vent up underneath the peak, which is activated by the little switch on the top of the helmet. And then you're going to have 2 passive exhaust vents at the back, so no way to close those off. Once you open the front ones, it just allows that air to push through. Weight on this, 3 pounds 12 ounces in a medium, so right around the middle of the pack from an adventure helmet in that $250 price point. And this is going to have a DOT ECE rating with the internal fit being intermediate oval. Now, one of the things that I will say is I got to test a few versions of this helmet as they were developing it, and then we got to go out and ride in the final production sample. One of the things that I think is really great with this particular Duale is the internal fit. That intermediate oval means it's a little bit longer front to back, a little bit narrower on the side of the head, but it's going to work for the majority of riders in the American market. So they went through a few different iterations on the fit on this, and I think in the final production version, they really did get the fit right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to break down the different features that you're going to see on the helmet, and we're going to talk through a couple of the things for the interior, as well as compare this to, some of the other players in this particular price point as we get through the video. So, first and foremost, anytime you're looking at an adventure helmet, this is really for those of you out there using your motorcycle on and or off-road. And what I like about this is you can configure the helmet a couple of different ways. So the face shield is pinlock ready, and it's a flat shield design so you don't get distortion the way that you do with some adventure helmets. Pinlock is not included in the box. That's a sold separately item, but the face shield itself is ready to accept the pinlock. What I will say is that when we were testing this off-road without the pinlock insert in there, using the face shield, it does fog up pretty easily. So if you are riding in cooler conditions, we were out testing this in about 40 degrees, you want to make sure you put that pinlock insert into the face shield if you want to avoid that fogging. Nice detents, closes nicely, opens nicely. Not really, you have a middle position there, but it kind of moves around. So I would say this is definitely a closed or an open. There's no little midway point. One of the things that I do like is that you can wear goggles with this while leaving the face shield on. That is how my associate, Mr. McHugh, was wearing it. I actually took the face shield off, left the peak visor on, and I was using goggles with this. We were both using different variations of 100% goggles. I was using the top of the line with the hyper lens on there, and Mr. McHugh, I think, was wearing the Racecraft. Now the other option is that you can remove the peak completely. So if you're using this primarily on the street or rolling down the highway for long distances, you can take the peak off and just use it with the face shield, and then you have essentially just a regular old full face helmet. So I like the fact that you can configure this a lot of different ways. One of the things I will note is that the peak does a really good job of not, kind of buckling at highway speeds. You get to some of these, if I'm wearing like a regular dirt bike helmet, for example, or even some adventure helmets, you feel like there's a lot of extra lift when you're rolling down the highway. I do feel like Sedici did a good job of designing the peak in a way that you can roll down the highway and there's not a lot of extra erroneous lift out of the face shield. From the vent standpoint, vents work really well to flow air. I think the front vent is really easy to actuate while wearing gloves. The back one, because of the size and the kind of nature of where it's located, a little bit tricky to use with gloves on. You just have to make sure you're really kind of pulling back is open and then just reaching from the back and pushing forward to close it. But no real critiques there. The overall style of the helmet, I think, is exactly what you'd expect from Adventure Lid. Very aggressive in its design. The one thing to note here, if you're looking at the top, when you're removing that peak, there's a little Phillips head screw up there. Included in the box is a GoPro mount, and there's a way to just go ahead and pull that screw out and then screw the GoPro mount right on there. I went ahead and I took this off because I'm not mounting a GoPro to the top of my helmet. But for those of you that are interested in doing that, there is this little GoPro mount included in the box as well. So let's move. Oh, I'm sorry. One of the things that I forgot, silly me, there is an internal drop-down sun visor as part of the face shield system as well. So this is going to be, a bump up over some of the adventure helmets that we see at this price point. For those of you that are using this on the street, you're not using it with goggles, that drop-down sun visor is a nice little additional feature that a lot of people gravitate towards. Personally, if I'm looking at this helmet, I'm probably wearing it with tinted goggles, so that doesn't really apply to me so much, or I'm using sunglasses. But for those of you that don't like wearing sunglasses while you ride, this really comes down and covers down to the nose of the bridge, and it sits nicely, and then it tucks up perfectly away when you're not using it. So I want to hit on that because we'll talk about that a little bit later when we're talking about where this falls into the line. So you do have emergency removable cheek pads, and you can see you have a 2-snap design, and then the bottom part goes through. We'll talk about the removable speaker pockets in there in a second. Go ahead and pull out both sides here. Chin curtain on this is removable as well, and you will see that the entire inside liner pulls out, so no real surprises there. What I will say is that these snaps are aggressive. If you're worried about the cheek pad just popping out on you like an Arai would, you don't have to worry about that. So you can see you've got your cheek pads pop right on out, and if we're looking at the inside here, you get these little removable tabs. So if you're not using a comm system, you can go ahead and leave these in, but if you are using a comm system, these Velcro little foam pads pull right out, and then you've got the cutaway for the speaker pockets in here. So if you're using a comm system, they sit into the helmet and give you a little bit extra comfort. One of the critiques that we've seen from some of these new speakers from the comm system setups is that the speakers have gotten thicker because they're going for more of a high definition audio experience. So the fact that we have a lot of these newer helmet manufacturers or the newer designs for helmets are focusing more on recessed speaker pockets. So it's nice to see that the Sedici Duale has that in here as well. So pulling the liner out for a second, one of the things that you will note here is that this helmet does flow a generous amount of air. You can see the inside cutout has nice channels recessed up into the EPS, pushes airflow from the front to the back, what you're looking for in an off-road helmet. One of the things that this helmet does not have is MIPS rotational protection, and I say that because we've seen Sedici introduce MIPS into some of their other street-focused helmets, and I do think it was a bit of a miss that they did not introduce it into their off-road helmet. For those of you that are not familiar, MIPS stands for Multi-Directional Impact Protection System, and it helps with rotational impact, something that's extremely important, especially in the off-road world. Now, we talked about where this fits in the line, coming in around that $250 price point. Really a direct competitor for this would be the Bell Adventure MX-9 MIPS helmet, which I think has been a class leader for a long time. So a lot of the questions that I think you're going to be asking is, where does this fall in comparison to that? So I do think that getting Sedici to bump up to MIPS would really help from a protection standpoint. What I will say is that this gets a fiberglass shell over the polycarb shell of the Bell. You're also getting that pinlock ready face shield with this, and you have a slightly different design to the helmet overall. So really, the other note here, and I told you I was going to drop this at the end, is that you have that drop-down sun visor. So for those of you that are focused more on, maybe a little bit more street than hardcore off-road, you do get some creature comforts on this that you're not seeing in something like the Bell. So really two different helmets playing around the same price point, each with some different features. But my main critique of this helmet, I think Sedici did a great job with this, extremely comfortable, easy to use, easy to ride in all day. What I will say is it would be great to see them update the next version with MIPS the way that we're seeing them do, across the board with some of their newer helmet designs that are coming out. But it's great to see the evolution of this. It's really great to see what Sedici is doing with their particular helmets and their entire gear line. So this is something that's a huge step up from what we've seen from them in the past. Again, coming in around that $240 price point for the standard Duale, and then they do have a carbon version coming in around the $350 price point. For those of you that are looking for an adventure bike lid, you're interested in riding your adventure bike on and or off-road, this is a great contender in that entry-level segment, and there's a lot of riders out there already using Sedici. So if you want to hear more about what they have to say, you can click the info button on your desktop or mobile device. You can read other rider reviews from folks that are putting this helmet through its paces. And if you have more questions as to which helmet is right for you and your riding style, you can always reach out to one of our customer service representatives that can walk you through all of the different helmets available to make sure you get the right helmet for your ride. want to thank you for joining us today for this look at the Sedici Duale Adventure Helmet. I'm Spurge. Enjoy the ride.